December, darkness, a night the world shifted. The air hung heavy, thick with the silence of falling snow. December 3rd, 1989. A night like many others in Lorton, Virginia, cloaked in the quiet anticipation of Christmas. Families gathered, lights twinkled, the scent of pine filled cozy homes. But in the blink of an eye, this peaceful facade shattered, ripped apart by an icy blast of fear. 5-year-old Melissa Brannon, her laughter echoing moments before, vanished, gone. The world tilted on its axis. One moment she was there, a bright spark in the heart of a Christmas party, the next swallowed whole by the darkness. The search began, frantic, desperate, fueled by a chilling question. What monster lurks among us, snatching innocence from under our noses? The silence of the falling snow transformed. Now it whispered of terror, of a nightmare unfolding. The darkness, once a comforting blanket, became a suffocating shroud, hiding secrets that chilled the soul. This wasn't a storybook villain lurking in shadows. This was real. This was happening here, in their midst. And as the hours ticked by, dread coiled in the pit of every stomach, a knot of fear tightening with each passing moment. This was no ordinary night. This was the night the world shifted, the night evil pierced the heart of Lorton, leaving an indelible scar on its soul. A night forever etched in the annals of the town's history. A chilling reminder that sometimes the monsters we fear most walk among us, hidden in plain sight. Vanished. The hunt for Melissa begins. Panic. It rippled through the crowd, a living entity. 1 minute, laughter and the clinking of glasses. The next, a mother's blood-curdling scream. Little Melissa, her infectious grin missing, was nowhere to be found. Frantic whispers morphed into panicked shouts. Had anyone seen her? Who was the last to see her smile? The apartment complex, once a beacon of holiday cheer, transformed into a frenzied search party. Flashlights cut through the darkness, their beams dancing over snow-dusted balconies and empty playgrounds. Each rustle of leaves, every shadow, held its breath. Could it be her? Hope and despair waged war in the hearts of the searchers. News spread like wildfire. The community, shaken to its core, rallied. Neighbors, friends, even strangers, united by a shared terror, fanned out into the night. They scoured woods, combed through dumpsters, their faces etched with a mixture of determination and dawning horror. Every passing moment chipped away at their hope, replaced by a chilling certainty. Something terrible had happened. The police arrived, sirens wailing, their presence a double-edged sword. They brought with them the grim reality of the situation, yet also a glimmer of hope. Detectives fanned out, questioning partygoers, piecing together the fragmented timeline of Melissa's disappearance. But as the hours ticked by, the questions outweighed the answers, and the mystery of Melissa Brannon deepened. Shadows of suspicion, whispers in the wind. In the wake of such tragedy, suspicion is a ruthless predator. It stalks the edges of grief, whispering doubts, casting shadows on even the most innocent. And in the case of Melissa Brannon, those shadows swirled around a man named Caleb Hughes, a neighbor, an acquaintance, a guest at the same Christmas party. His presence that night was about to draw the unwavering scrutiny of a community desperate for answers. Hughes, with his quiet demeanor and unassuming facade, became the focal point of the investigation. Whispers followed him like a chilling wind. He had been seen talking to Melissa, hadn't he? He'd left the party around the same time she vanished. Coincidence? Or something more sinister? The police, their antennae alert, zeroed in on Hughes. His alibi, scrutinized under the harsh glare of suspicion, seemed to crumble. Inconsistencies in his story, coupled with a growing unease among those who knew him, painted a disturbing picture. The more they dug, the deeper the suspicions grew, weaving a web of circumstantial evidence that pointed towards a horrifying conclusion. The community, hungry for answers, latched onto Hughes as the embodiment of their fears. He became a monster in their midst, his face plastered across newspapers and television screens. The presumption of innocence, a cornerstone of the justice system, seemed to waver under the weight of collective fear and suspicion. Section 4. A Community United. Hope and fear intertwined. The disappearance of Melissa Brannon ripped through the very fabric of Lorton, leaving behind a community grappling with a maelstrom of emotions. Fear, raw and visceral, pulsed beneath the surface of every interaction. Parents clutched their children tighter, their eyes scanning playgrounds with a newfound vigilance. The unthinkable had happened here, shattering the illusion of safety that once cloaked their quiet town. Yet, amidst the fear, a powerful surge of unity arose. The community, bound by a shared sense of loss and desperation, rallied around Melissa's family. Candlelight vigils illuminated the night, the flickering flames a testament to their unwavering hope. Strangers offered comfort, shared stories, and held each other as they wept. Volunteers, their faces etched with determination, continued the search for Melissa. They distributed flyers, knocked on doors, and organized search parties. Their efforts fueled by an unyielding belief that she was out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. The community became a living, breathing search party, united in their grief and unwavering in their resolve. This unity, however, was a double-edged sword. It provided solace, strength, and a sense of shared purpose, but it also fostered an environment where suspicion ran rampant, where whispers could quickly escalate into accusations. The community, desperate for answers, struggled to reconcile their need for justice with their desire to believe in the inherent goodness of their neighbors. Section 5. The Trial Unraveling a Web of Deceit. The courtroom buzzed with a palpable tension, a mix of anticipation and dread that seemed to seep into the very walls. The weight of expectation hung heavy in the air, a suffocating presence as palpable as the grief etched on the faces of Melissa's family. Their eyes, red from countless sleepless nights, bore the silent testimony of their anguish. All eyes were on Caleb Hughes, the man accused of snatching away their little girl, his fate now resting in the hands of a jury tasked with unraveling a web of circumstantial evidence. His expression was a mask of stoic calm, but the occasional twitch of his fingers betrayed his inner turmoil. The prosecution, armed with forensic evidence and chilling testimonies, methodically built their case. They painted a picture of a man whose actions were premeditated, calculated, and cold-hearted. They presented fibers found in Hughes's car, linking him to the scene where Melissa was last seen. These fibers, seemingly insignificant on their own, formed a crucial part of the puzzle. They highlighted inconsistencies in his alibi, painting a picture of a man whose carefully constructed facade was crumbling under the weight of his own lies. Each contradiction, each slip of the tongue, was another thread in the web of deceit. Hughes, throughout the trial, maintained his innocence. His voice, steady and unwavering, echoed through the courtroom as he recounted his version of events. His defense team, however, faced an uphill battle. They were up against a mountain of circumstantial evidence and a community desperate for justice. They argued that the prosecution's case was purely circumstantial, lacking the concrete evidence needed to convict a man of such a heinous crime. They emphasized the principle of innocent until proven guilty, urging the jury to look beyond the emotional weight of the case. They pointed to the lack of eyewitnesses, the absence of a crime scene, and the possibility of other suspects. They questioned the reliability of the forensic evidence, suggesting that it could have been contaminated or misinterpreted. The jury deliberated for days, their faces etched with the gravity of their decision. Each member weighed the evidence, the testimonies, and the arguments presented, knowing that their verdict would have far-reaching consequences. The fate of a man, the hope for justice, the very soul of a community hung in the balance. Outside the courtroom, community members gathered, their faces a mix of hope and fear, waiting anxiously for the verdict. Each day that passed ratcheted up the tension, the silence in the courtroom broken only by the nervous whispers of onlookers. The air was thick with anticipation, every creak of the wooden benches, every rustle of paper, amplifying the collective anxiety. The world watched, waited, and prayed for a resolution that would bring closure to a nightmare that had haunted them for far too long. News outlets from across the globe covered the trial, their cameras capturing every moment, every tear, every sigh. The trial had become a symbol of the fight for justice, a beacon of hope for those who had suffered similar losses.